Good evening, everybody. I'm Fictional Crystals, and this is my review on mindful education. Or should I say, mindful education, because this episode was about the mind and it messed with my mind. That was a horrible pun. But this was a great episode. It made it into my top 3 of all time. Seriously, wow, where do I even begin? At the start, I guess. Steven and Connie have Stevonnie sword practice with Pearl and Garnet watching. But Connie was really sad for some reason. She didn't even notice that Steven was bald. But Steven and Connie fuse into Stevonnie anyway. Stevonnie's sword fighting outfit is my favourite one of theirs yet. But there was something about it that was just a little off. The yellow star on Steven's shirt was covered by Connie's sword training outfit, which made it look like the yellow diamond insignia. On any other show, I would have said this is just a coincidence, but this is Steven Universe. Nothing is a coincidence. I think that this is foreshadowing Yellow Diamond coming to Earth, and possibly Stevonnie fighting her. Anyway, the hollow pearls that Stevonnie fights also fuse, and that was the best fusion dance ever. 10 out of 10, yep, definitely. I found it interesting how their gems combined into one, instead of being next to each other. This was probably just because they were an exact copy of the same person and not actual gems. The whole time Stevonnie was fighting, Garnet was being a total fusion fangirl. In the promo for Mindful Education, Pearl's star was white instead of yellow, but turns out that was just a colouring error since it was fine in the actual episode. Stevonnie's fighting goes really well, they even learn how to float, until they see an image of a terrified boy. This causes them to unfuse and Connie runs away. Connie explains to Steven that that was the boy she beat up in school, which is why she was sad. This is something I think no one expected. Everyone expected Connie's parents to get divorced, or maybe she was moving, which is personally what I thought, or maybe she was the one being bullied in school. No one expected her to be the bully. Though, in her defense, it was by accident her training instincts kicked in. Turns out Garnet was listening into the whole conversation, that or future vision. She said, "Hold the phone, now give the phone to me," which is a direct reference to the message. She takes Steven and Connie to the beach to sort out their problems. But first, they need to fuse into Stevonnie. Garnet tells them to just relax and listen to the waves, but I could not relax at all after this point because it was magical, and I half expected Malachite to pop out of the ocean, even though I know that's impossible. They end up inside of this blue room, and I'm not quite sure if this is Garnet or Stevonnie's mind. Maybe it was a space in between the two minds, a fusion. I'm pretty sure they got there through Steven's dream powers though, like how he ended up inside of Malachite's mind, except rather than seeing a bunch of hate and abuse, he saw what a stable fusion's like. Though the stable fusion's minds weren't completely without regret. The butterflies represented all their problems and all their regrets. I think that the butterflies are also associated with fusion, such as how we saw sardonyx with dragonflies. This scene was presented in a beautiful, spectacular, perfect scene. It had Ruby and Sapphire again, Garnet sung, Stevonnie sung. This show doesn't have songs just for the sake of having songs. Its songs have a very deep meaning. This song has become my second favourite song of all time, not just on the show, but out of any song ever. The regret butterflies go after Ruby and Sapphire. Ruby gets one regret butterfly going after her. In fact, it wasn't really going after her, it was kind of just floating there. But Sapphire was swarmed. They were attacking her from all over. Sapphire has a lot of regrets. Maybe it's because she has future vision, so she's seeing all the bad things that she might do. Sapphire is quite calm about all the regrets flying around her. As we know from Keystone Motel, she bottles up all her sadness. Ruby, on the other hand, completely exploded over one regret. She was overreacting. She was yelling, screaming, crying, until she saw Sapphire. She forgot about all her regrets to go help Sapphire, then Sapphire left all her regrets behind to be with Ruby. It's like how they left everything they knew behind in the answer to be together. This is why Rufire's my OTP. My other OTP is Converse, which was also in this episode. Connie had regrets about beating up that boy, but Steven helped her get over them and reassured her that it was just an accident. There was a bunch of beautiful metaphors in this song and its imagery, which I can't even begin to explain. Estelle and AJ's voices worked perfectly together. It was a perfect fusion. It was a dream come true. If you said this to me before season 3, I wouldn't have believed you, but it all actually happened. We got to see Garnet and Stevonnie in the same room as Ruby, Sapphire, Steven and Connie. This was the first time that Connie's seen Ruby and Sapphire. She's heard about them, but never actually seen them in person. They didn't talk though. And don't you dare tell me that Steven, Connie and Stevonnie don't mirror Ruby, Sapphire and Garnet after this episode. The next day, Connie's feeling a lot better about what she did. She even became friends with the boy she beat up. His name is Jeff, which is a reference to one of the storyboarders. They fuse into Stevonnie and everything is fine. It's a lot better than before. Until Bismuth. This was by far the biggest shock of the episode for me. I was fangirling the whole time through the whole episode, but this just blew everything out of the park. Connie had no idea who Bismuth was, but Steven was panicking even worse than Connie was. Connie just beat up a person, Steven murdered someone. Not really though. And if that wasn't sad enough, oh look, Jasper's back. And she's sad? I have a love-hate relationship with Jasper. For the most part, I'm pretty fine with her. It was just in Crack the Whip where I got really mad at her. But I'm starting to like her more now. I'm so confused. Then my precious Space Ruby eyeball appeared and I was wheezing so much at that point. Despite all of the sadness, I found it kind of funny how Eyeball was taller than Bismuth and Jasper. Connie must have been so confused. She just met Ruby and now she's seeing another Ruby, probably wondering if it's the same person. And why one of them is so nice and the other is trying to kill them. Then all of Steven's fears started coming in around them, but hey, on the bright side, Eyeball finally got to meet Jasper. Then all 3 of Steven's regrets turned into his biggest one of all. Rose Quartz. He regrets being born. It was because of him that Rose died. He regrets taking Rose away from everyone that loved her. He fears that she wouldn't like what he did to Jasper, Bismuth and Eyeball. He fears he won't be able to live up to Rose's legacy, but at the same time, he fears he'll become her. The thing is that none of these are directly his fault. The hallucination effect that Stevonnie gets whenever they get anxiety is what happened here, except it's usually from Connie. This time it was from Steven. It was much worse. It was his dream powers amplifying what his fears were. through fusion, like Smokey's insecurities. Maybe that's just what fusions see when they get unstable. That would explain Garnet's reaction in keeping it together. It caused them to fall off the edge and unfuse, inevitably falling to their doom. Steven was crying as they fell about all the bad things he did. I was crying too, but then Connie reassured him that it was okay to feel like that. He needs to be honest about what happened, unlike Rose was. They refuse and float safely down. They landed in a place that looks very, and I mean very similar to where Ruby and Sapphire were in The Answer. Yes, more Stevonnie Garnet parallels. Well guys, this episode made the fandom a complete emotional wreck. We should have known there was a guest storyboarder after all. The animation was amazing, by the way. To think Steven's biggest worry used to be running out of ice cream. The final thing I have to say about that episode is the ominous ending theme. I am not prepared for whatever that ending theme means. I am literally shaking. I'm not even joking. Oh my.